Unlock Epictetus' life-changing truths from Book 1 of the Discourses. Imagine this: you're in the middle of a storm, not a literal one, but a storm of life. Your finances are crumbling, relationships are strained, and the chaos of the world feels like it's closing in on you. Yet, amidst all this turmoil, there's a figure sitting calmly under a tree, untouched by the winds of fate. This is not some mythical being, but a human like you. How is this possible? What secret have they uncovered that allows them to stand unshaken in the tempest? The answer lies in the teachings of Epictetus, a man whose words have the power to transform your very existence. What if everything you need to control your life is already within you? That's the journey we're embarking on today, an exploration of the profound truths in Book 1 of the Discourses by Epictetus. By the end of this, you'll see the world differently, and perhaps you'll see yourself for the first time. Epictetus begins with a radical yet liberating premise. Some things are up to us, and some things are not. Pause for a moment and let this sink in. It's a deceptively simple idea, yet it holds the key to a life free from unnecessary suffering. Think about the last time you felt anxious or frustrated. Was it because you were clinging to something outside your control, a person's opinion, an outcome, or even the weather? Epictetus challenges us to see this truth clearly. Our serenity hinges on recognizing what we can and cannot control. Now, let's ground this in a modern example. Imagine a young professional striving for a promotion. They put in countless hours, sacrificing weekends and sleep. Yet, when the decision comes, the job goes to someone else. The anguish they feel, was it inevitable? Or did it arise because they tied their sense of worth to an outcome they couldn't guarantee? Epictetus would say the latter. The job was never in their control, only their effort and attitude were. And this brings us to a powerful realization. Freedom is not about bending the world to your will, but about mastering your response to it. So ask yourself, how much of your mental anguish comes from trying to control the uncontrollable? And more importantly, what would happen if you let go? In the first chapters of the Discourses, Epictetus drills into this dichotomy of control, not as a mere intellectual exercise, but as a survival strategy. He uses a vivid metaphor. Life is like a banquet. When a dish comes your way, take it graciously. If it doesn't, don't stretch your hand out in longing. It wasn't meant for you. Can you imagine living this way? The next time you face rejection or loss, instead of spiraling into despair, you simply nod and say, "This wasn't my dish." It sounds almost too simple, but simplicity is often the hallmark of profound wisdom. Let's dig deeper. Epictetus doesn't just stop at what we can and cannot control. He adds another layer, our perceptions. He argues that events themselves are neutral. It's our judgments about them that cause distress. Picture this. A friend cancels plans last minute. Is this inherently bad? Or does it only become bad because you perceive it as a slight or an inconvenience? Change your perception, and the sting disappears. Here's a challenge for you. The next time you face an irritating situation, stop and ask, is this event truly bad? Or is my judgment making it so? You might be surprised at how often it's the latter. Now let's talk about freedom. True freedom, according to Epictetus, is internal. It's not about doing whatever you want, but about aligning your desires with reality. Imagine you're a prisoner, yet within those walls, you cultivate a mind so serene that no external force can touch it. Does that sound like a paradox? Epictetus himself was born a slave, yet he walked the earth freer than many emperors. How? By mastering his inner world. Here's a question for you. If you were stripped of all external privileges, your job, possessions, even your reputation, what would remain? Would you still feel free? Or have you tied your sense of self to things outside your control? The answer to this question might just be the most important discovery of your life. Before we move on, let's revisit a key point. Mastery over your mind is not just about avoiding suffering. It's about unlocking joy. Think of the last time you were truly happy. Was it because of something external? Or was it a moment of inner peace? connection, or clarity. Epictetus reminds us that the most profound joys are not found in possessions or achievements, but in the quiet strength of a disciplined mind. Mastering the art of living, practical stoicism for everyday freedom. Epictetus believed that philosophy was not merely a subject for intellectual debate, but a way of life. To him, it was a craft, much like carpentry or medicine, requiring practice, discipline, and patience. This perspective flips the modern view of philosophy on its head. It's not about impressing others with profound quotes or lofty ideas. It's about living well. So let's delve deeper into how we can use these timeless teachings to transform our everyday lives. Let's start with habits. Epictetus repeatedly emphasizes that our habits define our character. He says, first, tell yourself what kind of person you want to be, and then act accordingly. It sounds straightforward, doesn't it? But how often do we drift through life, reacting to circumstances rather than consciously deciding who we want to become? Epictetus invites us to flip this script. Imagine you're an athlete preparing for the Olympics. Every meal, every workout, every hour of sleep is deliberate because you know it shapes your future performance. Life, Epictetus argues, is no different. If you want to cultivate courage, practice courage in small, everyday moments. If you want to be patient, embrace delays and setbacks as opportunities to strengthen this virtue. Here's a challenge. Think of one virtue you deeply admire. Maybe it's resilience, humility, or kindness. Now, identify one small action you can take today to embody that virtue. Remember, great character isn't built in a day. It's forged through consistent effort over time. One of the most striking ideas in the Discourses is Epictetus's view on adversity. He doesn't just tell us to endure hardships. He suggests we embrace them as opportunities for growth. Difficulties, he says, are the things that show what men are. This is not about glorifying suffering, but about recognizing its transformative potential. Let's take a modern example. Think of a time when you faced a significant challenge, maybe a breakup, job loss, or health scare. At that moment, probably felt overwhelming, even unbearable. But looking back, didn't it also teach you something invaluable? Perhaps it revealed your inner strength or clarified what truly matters to you. Epictetus teaches us to view every challenge as a teacher, every hardship as a chance to grow. Now ask yourself, when was the last time you saw a problem as a gift in disguise? Could you start seeing your current struggles in this way? Epictetus also warns us about the danger of attaching ourselves to external things. He writes, when you kiss your child, say to yourself, I am kissing a mortal. At first glance, this might sound cold or even cruel, but it's not about detachment for its own sake. It's about loving with clarity. When we forget the impermanence of life, we risk being devastated by loss. By remembering it, we can love more deeply, appreciating each moment for the fragile, fleeting gift it is. Take a moment to think about the people you love most. What if you saw each interaction as if it could be your last, not in a morbid way, but as a reminder to be fully present, to cherish every word, every gesture? How might this change your relationships? Now, let's tackle one of the most practical aspects of Epictetus's philosophy, the importance of preparing your mind. Just as athletes train for competition, we must train our minds for the challenges of life. Epictetus suggests mental rehearsals, visualizing potential difficulties and deciding in advance how to respond. For instance, if you know you'll face criticism at work, imagine it beforehand and rehearse a calm, composed reaction. Why is this so powerful? Because it shifts you from being reactive to proactive. Instead of being blindsided by events, you meet them with prepared equanimity. This is not about suppressing emotions, but about mastering them so they don't control you. Try this exercise before you go to bed tonight. Reflect on the challenges you might face tomorrow. Visualize yourself responding with patience, courage, or whatever virtue you wish to embody. See how this simple practice changes your perspective. Epictetus also reminds us that we are part of a greater whole. He writes, "You are a citizen of the universe. This idea can be both humbling and empowering. It reminds us that while our individual problems may feel immense, they are but a tiny ripple in the vast ocean of existence. At the same time, it calls us to a higher purpose, to live in harmony with nature and contribute to the common good. Ask yourself, how often do you get so caught up in your personal struggles that you forget the bigger picture? What might change if you saw your life as part of a grander narrative? As we near the end of this part, let's revisit a central theme: freedom. For Epictetus, true freedom is not about escaping hardship, but about mastering yourself so that no hardship can enslave you. Imagine living with such inner strength that nothing, neither praise nor blame, gain nor loss, could shake your peace. This is not an unattainable ideal. It's a skill that anyone can develop, one choice at a time. Here's a final question to ponder before we continue. What would your life look like if you truly embraced the Stoic principles of freedom, resilience, and inner mastery? The Stoics' secret weapon, turning philosophy into daily power. Let's begin with a fundamental truth that Epictetus insists we embrace. Philosophy is not a collection of abstract ideas, but a toolkit for living. Imagine you're an architect building a cathedral. Philosophy provides the blueprint, the tools, and the techniques. Without using them, the cathedral remains a dream. Epictetus's Discourses challenges us to pick up these tools and start building. One of the most powerful tools he offers is the ability to pause. When faced with a provocation, an insult, a setback, a moment of anger, Epictetus advises, don't react impulsively. Stop and examine whether this lies within your control. This single habit, simple as it seems, can revolutionize your life. Think about it. How often do we create unnecessary suffering by reacting without reflection? A harsh word in anger, a rushed decision born of fear. How much peace have you sacrificed in these moments? Here's an exercise for tomorrow. Every time you feel yourself reacting emotionally, pause, take a breath, ask yourself, is this within my control? If it is, act with intention. If it isn't, let it go. It sounds small, but this pause is the birthplace of freedom. Epictetus also teaches us to challenge our assumptions. He writes, it is not events themselves that disturb people, but their judgments about them. Let's break this down. Imagine a crowded train. One person is fuming, muttering about delays. Another sits calmly, listening to music. The same event, two radically different experiences. Why? Because it's not the train delay that causes distress. It's the story we tell ourselves about it. How often do we mistake our perceptions for reality? Epictetus invites us to question the narratives we cling to. The next time you're upset, ask yourself, what story am I telling? Is it true? Is it helpful? Sometimes, simply changing the story, reframing a setback as a lesson, a criticism as an opportunity for growth, can transform your experience. Here's a deep question to sit with. What stories are you telling about your life that might be holding you back? Now, let's explore the idea of self-discipline. Epictetus compares the mind to a fortress. If the gates are left unguarded, anything can enter: fear, greed, resentment. But if you stand watch, nothing can breach your inner peace. This is not about suppressing emotions, but about training your mind to remain strong and clear under pressure. Imagine a day where you guard your mind like a fortress. When negative thoughts arise, you question them instead of letting them settle. When temptations knock, you remind yourself of your higher goals. This practice is not easy, but it is transformative. Over time, you'll notice a shift. Fewer moments of regret, more moments of clarity. Ask yourself, what are the weak points in your mental fortress? How can you start strengthening them today? Epictetus also challenges us to redefine success. In a world obsessed with wealth, fame, and power, he offers a radical alternative. True success lies in living according to your values. Think about that for a moment. How many of your goals are truly yours? And how many have been shaped by societal pressures or the expectations of others? He tells us, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. This is not a call to renounce ambition but to examine it. Are you chasing something that will genuinely fulfill you, or are you climbing a ladder that leads nowhere? This insight forces us to confront a difficult question. What do I truly value? Imagine spending a day guided by your deepest values. How would your decisions change? What would you let go of? What would you pursue with newfound passion? Let's move to relationships, a cornerstone of the Stoic life. Epictetus reminds us that while we cannot control others, we can control how we relate to them. He says, whenever you are about to find fault with someone, ask yourself, what fault of mine most nearly resembles the one I am about to criticize? This is not about excusing bad behavior, but about cultivating empathy and humility. Think about the last time someone upset you. What if, instead of reacting, you paused and considered their perspective? What if you used their actions as a mirror to reflect on your own growth areas? This shift can turn conflicts into opportunities for connection and self-improvement. Here's a question to ponder. How might your relationships change if you approach them with the humility and grace Epictetus describes? Finally, let's talk about legacy. Epictetus asks us to consider not how long we live, but how well. He says, don't hope that events will turn out the way you want. Welcome events in whichever way they happen. This is the path to peace. Imagine living in such harmony with the flow of life that you face every moment with equanimity, not because it's easy, but because you've prepared yourself for it. What kind of legacy are you building? Is it one of courage, kindness, and wisdom? Or are you caught in the pursuit of fleeting pleasures? Epictetus reminds us that our actions ripple far beyond our immediate lives. The way you handle adversity, the way you treat others, the way you embody your values, these are the things that will endure. As we conclude this journey through the Discourses, let's return to where we began, the storm of life. Epictetus doesn't promise to calm the storm. Instead, he offers something far greater, the ability to remain unshaken, no matter how fierce the winds. So I'll leave you with one final, profound question. If you were to live every moment as if it were your last, guided by wisdom and clarity, how different would your life be? Thank you for joining me on this journey. Now it's your turn. What will you do with the truths you've uncovered? Will you let them remain as ideas, or will you use them to transform your life? The choice is yours.